fall, but I can't lose it.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
The Lionheart IndyCar Series has made the trip from the Lone Star State to the land down under. At the Great American Speedway, Adam Blocker's run of victories finally came to an end as Connor Harrington went back to HyperX victory lane. But with 6 wins in 12 races so far, the Lionheart King Blocker is looking good to make it 4 titles in a row. This, though, is the Thunder Down Under. This is Phillip Island, and this is the KARNOX Grand Prix of Phillip Island, presented by SimSnap Photography. Hello, and welcome back to RaceSpotTV and coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series, powered by HyperX. makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined as always by Justin Prince in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. Live timing and scoring is powered by our partners at ATVO. You can head to RaceSpot.tv/Indy to follow along with your favorite team and drivers. Let's dive straight into our butt kicker pre-race show. And Justin, what a race we had at the Lone Star State. It's a long trip though from Texas here to Australia and to the state of Victoria. But what a race we've got on the cards for us today. 46 laps here on Phillip Island. It is a fast, it's a flowing racetrack. And before we head to our second Triple Crown event of the season, the question really is, can Adam Blocker dominate once more on the road courses? Can he make it 7 wins in 12-13 races?
It's been definitely a dominant campaign so far for Adam Blocker, especially with consistency at the multiple different types of racetracks, whether it's been on the road courses, but as well, a lot of the different types of ovals, whether short or large. Phillip Island, though, brings plenty of challenges, especially trying to survive the first and second sectors during the opening laps. So in our words, there's a strong chance, Arjuna, but it's not going to be easy with the history Phillip Island has had.
And should be noted as well, we've got a debutant in the series. Philip Kraus joins up with the private label Team Hype machine. He is very quick when it comes to the road courses. Finished 7th in our 2021 ISO WC Championship. Very much looking forward to seeing what he will do on debut at an island that shares a name with himself. Let's take a look at our driver standings presented by Butt Kicker. And now, Justin, we are halfway through the season. We have started to incorporate our drop weeks into the standings. That does mean that things look slightly different. The gap between Blocker and Harrington only about 50 points, with a further 120 points back to Henry Bennett and Andrew Kinsella running in 3rd, 4th, with Ryan Otis, the Lionheart Retro Series champion, in very close pursuit. But ultimately, Blocker is looking very, very comfortable. This is an important race, though. The NTT IndyCar Series goes for its West Coast swing in the next couple of weeks. Who knows if Blocker will be on track in the subsequent couple of races here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series.
Yeah, you mentioned the drop weeks. They're going to be very vital, I think, for how some of the championship hopes fare out, especially with drivers in turn as a result of that. For Harrington, for Bennett, for Kinsella, for Otis, for Chen as well, you can throw into the mix as well. But the main thing has to be considered. When you have a driver like Adam Blocker, where essentially every single start has been a top 5, that makes it very difficult to maintain just consistency to be able to battle with them. For Adam Blocker, he's got the upper hand right now. It's going to be the tough part of, can anyone force him to make mistakes, and can anyone be able to capitalize on mistakes if they do come?
And of course, those who watched the last time we went road racing in the IndyCar Series will remember a chaotic end of the race from the home of British motorsports, Joshua Chin and Adam Blocker coming to blows. Chin had to serve a suspension last time at the Great American Speedway. He will now start at the tail end of today's field. Will make his job that much more difficult as he starts 6th position in the championship. Here's a look at your team standings presented by HyperX. And because of that suspension, Justin, the gap between the private label Team Hype and Adrenaline Motorsports Red has come down. They have truly been the class of the field so far in 2021, but always quick has been the graphics LPM machine. Someone like Aaron Morgan might be someone we keep our eyes on today, but they are not too far in front of Alcantech Simulations NHR Esports.
4 teams with 1,000+ points. It's been very impressive for the organization so far, but the tricky thing I think is going to be, can private label Team Hype do well knowing they'll have at least one driver starting to the back, and Jason Brophy, who's been up and down the road courses, likely marred in the mid-pack for much of this event. It's going to be a critical time, I think, for private label Team Hype now as a result, where they may be forced, Arjuna, to play catch-up today. So this is a great opportunity if you're the Adrenaline Motorsports Red drivers to say, we can catch up and gain a lot of that deficit up today, that 137-point deficit to be precise.
Jason Brophy definitely very much more comfortable when it comes to the ovals. He works in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series alongside Team Conti, the likes of course, Michael Conti, Logan Clampett, Nick Ottinger, and so many more very quick drivers. And let's talk a little bit then about those rookie standings presented by Butt Kicker, because Brophy and Bennett have been very, very strong. Bennett has been a bit more consistent in the last couple of rounds and will head to a track that he knows very well, looking to extend that points advantage. But really, I mean, two drivers who have been the class of the field in the Lionheart Retro Series, very much putting an impressive rookie campaign forward here in 2021. We're, of course, talking of Matt Taylor and Mike Rasmussen. Taylor is coming off a high, Justin. He's been especially consistent the last couple of months across of Lionheart-sanctioned competitions. He's won the last two races in the Retro Series.
He's been very quick throughout the campaign as well, where in several cases, on the speedways in particular, we've seen him in IndyCar action make his way inside the top 10. Now keep this in mind though, he's also been fairly efficient on the road courses, as well as Mike Rasmussen, who got himself a victory in the Retro Series, remember, at Sonoma. So both of those drivers, third and fourth, I think have a great opportunity to leapfrog their way into second in the rookie standings if they play their cards right today. It's just a matter of, do they qualify well enough, and do they keep that track position? You never know when it comes to the circuit.
Should correct myself as well, of course. Taylor has two consecutive victories. David Rodriguez took a very impressive win last time the Retro Series went racing out on the short tracks. Let's talk a little bit about the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to also use the promo code Minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. We are only about 9 days away from our second Triple Crown event of the season as we go racing for 500 miles around the Michigan Speedway. That is going to be a thriller. But ultimately, we were talking, Justin, just before we came on air, this is going to be a very tricky race. Custom fixed setups, but you do have the in-car tools, so that will mean ARB adjustments, anti-roll bar adjustments for all of the drivers, and we know what they're fighting for, their share of $8,800.
And in turn, it's going to be a very tricky race with a custom fixed setup. We were discussing how today, for example, these competitors will have an event which starts off fairly cool, 8:30 in sim time for drivers, all the way to very much warmer track conditions. So those tools are going to be ever so adjusting, but also the tire strategies are also going to be in flux, as well as the ability for drivers to try and make sure they don't lock up the right front tires, which can be fairly easy to do in a couple of these sections. This is not going to be an easy race to be able to try and utilize those tools either.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about this event itself. Not necessarily a staple on the Lionheart IndyCar calendar by any means, but it really is a roller coaster of a track. We've gone from Texas to the land down under, and if you don't have that classic song stuck in your head, what is wrong with you? The fifth trip, though, to Phillip Island in 9 seasons of competitions, 4 previous races, 4 different winners. Only one driver has the opportunity to become the first 2-time winner of the Thunder Down Under. We'll be curious to see if Adam Blocker can take pole here, a position that is converted to victory twice in history.
He's been very quick when it comes to qualifying throughout a majority of the road courses this season, so there is a strong chance of that. And keep in mind, you have drivers with strong history, though, when it comes to the race performance. Your Sage Karam, the defending race winner, for example, back in Season 8. The one upper hand advantage, though, when it comes to that qualifying speed, Arjuna, Adam Blocker holds the track record when it comes to qualifying. That being a 139.5 miles per hour lap in Season 6. So it's the question of, can he replicate that speed today?
I can tell you, Blocker will not start on pole because he has done 3 of his 4 qualifying attempts. Qualifying underway for our drivers right now. Currently, Ryan Otis with provisional pole position. Let's talk a little bit more about this wonderful facility in the state of Victoria on Phillip Island. 2.5 miles, give or take, 4.5 kilometers. A long sweeping turn number 1, almost full throttle, that leads you into the southern loop, that left-hand sweeping corner where understeer is going to be oh so difficult to manage, and then you've got a couple of switchback hairpins, then up you go into Lukey Heights, down the hill into turn number 10 where drivers will be trying to avoid locking their brakes. It's so much elevation change here, Dustin. It is such a fun track. And for those who are regular viewers on RaceSpotTV, they will know that when the iRacing IndyCar Open Series came here just a couple of weeks ago, chaos, carnage, a bit of a meme at times as well. I think we spent more time under replay than we did watching live action.
I think I heard some of the drivers discussing the potential of attrition as well when it comes to that tight complex in turns 4, 5, and 6 running all the way up to Siberia. That's going to be the most dangerous part at the start of this race, Arjuna, is trying to make sure you don't get into contact there with how deep some of the braking can be and how slow you have to roll your way throughout that section with how tight that corner apex is. Keep in mind, a lot of history here over its time. When it started off, keep in mind, in 1928 as a modern circuit, in 1956, and eventually reopened all the way in 1988. Plenty of different types of racing have come here, from Grand Prix events to supercars.
And it's a track that bears some of the names of the greats in Australian racing. Justin, really excited about this one, and I'm really excited about the proposition of someone like Phil Krause making a debut here. Private label Team Hype won't have him bolstering their ranks when it comes to the team's championship, but ultimately having a driver of that caliber second on the first of our races in the ISOWC at Watkins Glen, and what was one of the strongest fields we've seen on the road car side of IndyCar competition here on the iRacing service. Really looking forward to what he puts forward, but of course Connor Harrington as well. He's quick on the road courses. Let's see what he can do to challenge Adam Blocker.
Yeah, I'm very curious on how Harrington in particular does, because I think there's a strong chance, depending on the right strategy, Harrington could find himself at least in the podium. But the main thing is, Krause is going to be a major factor, I think, today. If he times it up right off the jump, if he gets himself right out of the potential of the attrition early on, I wouldn't be surprised to see him right behind the rear wing of Blocker within the first couple laps after the first couple sectors. In our words, the private label Team Hype machines look like they are going to be fairly competitive today.
Krause has provisionally put himself in fourth. I'm just taking a look at my timing screen off to the left here. Connor Harrington in fifth. So on provisional pole, like I did mention, is Ryan Otis, the Lionheart Retro Series king. And of course, the Retro Series did come here a couple of months ago for their own Thunder Down Under. It was Richie Hearn that I believe put it on pole position. And what a chaotic race we had that time around. Like I mentioned earlier as well, Joshua Chin has an end-of-line penalty, so he'll be starting at the very tail end of our field here today. 60 seconds left on the clock, and interesting to note here, Justin, the times are pretty close. The top 25 cars separated by just 1 second out on track.
I was noticing that in practice as well. These drivers looking fairly consistent, and it's been talked about that this is a fairly stable setup where, in theory, it means you can hit the track fairly well, but it's very easy to overdrive said stable setup and burn up your front tires as a result. So these competitors definitely have a lot of comfort when it comes to driving around here. It's just a matter of, can they keep that up race pace wise, knowing this track is only going to get warmer and warmer as the event goes on.
It is, what, about 8:30 in the morning here, and from the virtual Phillip Island. Qualifying is done and dusted. It will be Ryan Otis who has put it on pole position. Let's go ahead and take a look at our starting grid here from Phillip Island. And here's a look at your butt kicker starting grid. It is the second pole position for the Lionheart Retro Series champion, Ryan Otis. He takes pole by over 1/10 of a second from your Lionheart king, Adam Blocker, looking to extend his championship advantage and take his 7th victory on the season. The ever-quick Michael O'Brien, third race for him in his IndyCar career, third on the grid, alongside the debutant Phil Krause, who will line up just in front of his private label Team Hype teammate Connor Harrington, victorious last time from Texas Speedway. Brian Beard, a very impressive qualifying performance from him as he completes row number 3 with Chris Fowler, Dustin Wardlow, 7th and 8th position. Aaron Morgan, we said watch out for him for the Graphics LPM machine, and it's an all Graphics LPM row number 5. Mike Rasmas lines up on the outside, completing the top 10. Henry Bennett will be slightly disappointed with his qualifying performance. He'll line up in 11th position, 4/10 off the pace of your pole sitter, with Stefan Larkamp alongside in 12th position. Robert Malechka, very impressive last time, pole position at Texas, 13th here today. What can he do alongside Tyler Graf, who does lots of the graphics works for Lionheart. Barrett Rolfe, second. Heartbreak, so close for him to take his first Lionheart IndyCar victory. He'll line up in 15th, ever quick, alongside Adam Fraser in the all-black machine. Matt Taylor, Lionel Kalisto, 17th and 18th positions, and it's an all-adrenaline motorsports red, row number 10. 19th goes to Kinsella, 20th to Brian Carey. Lots of work for them to do here in the Teams Championship. Jay Brandt 21st, Jason Brophy in that aforementioned Team Championship will look to try and do some damage to the Adrenaline Motorsports cars in front. He'll line up in 22nd with Scott Holmes, Matt Houston, row number 12. Christopher, Luis Gonzalez, Nunez 25th and 26th with Joe Branch, Ron Hacker and Alexis Newsom, the final cars to set a qualifying lap time. Joshua Chin will start at the tail end of the field along with, who's that in 31st position? Doesn't look like they want to show up in our graphics. Believe that may be just a bit of an issue on the iRacing side of things. Tony Shaw and Paul Jenkins, Mike Rigney complete our grid. Race controls, George Anzaldo not racing here today. Instead, he'll be sitting up there in the race control booth and making sure he's on top of all the action. But we do hope he's not going to be too needed in today's race. As always, we have a number of onboard cameras, so let's go ahead and walk us through at least the featured ones here on the pace lap. With the KARNOX on board, it's Michael O'Brien. KARNOX, the makers of the finest esports gaming chairs. We've got your back. Visit KARNOX.com.
With the HyperX onboard camera, it's Jason Brophy. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and a HyperX is always ready to game.
Your defending champion, the one car, Adam Blocker, has your butt kicker on board. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com.
And one of the top rookies when it comes to road courses, Henry Bennett, has the Espo Designs onboard camera. Get yourself a racing identity.
And so we're getting word that that 31st position is Ricky Harding, who has not joined the session, so apologies for the iRacing service maybe just throwing up some curveballs there, but here we go, Justin. 46 laps, 2 pit stops. Drivers have to take both compounds of tires. Basically, the entire of the top 20 is starting on the red-marked alternate tires. It's time for predictions, though, and I think both you and I were talking just before we went live. I think both of us are feeling pretty confident Adam Blocker will become the first 2-time winner here in the Thunder Down Under.
Especially when it comes to his long-run pace, I wouldn't be surprised to see Blocker take home the checkered flag with how consistent he can be. But the tough part's going to be, can he get himself clean air early? Ryan Otis setting that pole time was blistering quick. This is not going to be an easy launch.
Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the KARNOX Grand Prix of Phillip Island, presented by SimSnap Photography. We are racing from the land down under as Ryan Otis gets us underway. He's got a wonderful launch as Connor Harrington makes it 3 wide. Down the middle, it's Michael O'Brien trying to force Phil Kraus just a little bit wide. Harrington almost contact with O'Brien as they come in through turn number 1 and through the southern loop. This is where understeer may push O'Brien into the path of the private label Team Hype machine. Harrington holds on to the outside line. That will give him the inside into Honda corner. It is a very tricky braking zone. Turn number 4, slightly off camber as you get to the apex. Harrington slings it down the inside. He should get into 3rd position as we complete turn number 4. The top 5, Otis, Blocker, Harrington, and Michael O'Brien. The only car having issues, Justin, Luis Gonzalez, Nunez.
Everybody else made it nice and smoothly through that section, and that was the fear for some competitors, was if there was contact, because in some of the practice starts, there were 10, 15 car pileups. This time, though, very clean making it through the section, as we see from Philip Kraus just trying to wait patiently for his opportunity to try and gain some of the positions back. O'Brien already shuffled behind Harrington, who's on the move.
Barrett Rolfe, a monster of a start. He's up 3 positions from where he started into 12th spot. Already, though, across the start-finish line, Ryan Otis almost a full second in front of Adam Blocker, diving their way down into turn number 1. It's side by side just behind them. That was one of the NHR Esports machines. Chris Fowler having to defend from Aaron Morgan. I don't think Morgan has got the move done just yet. More side by side. That was Lionel Kalisto and Adam Fraser. Some dirt being kicked up on the outside of the track, but an exceptionally clean lap number 1. Justin, that is what we wanted to see.
Dirt being kicked up by O'Brien, by the way, as Kraus was able to make the move to rip away 4th position, but exactly what these competitors wanted to see. Let the strategies play out. Let the skill come on through. These drivers expect to make 15 to 17 laps on fuel today, as one driver, just as we said that, went off the circuit.
That is Adam Fraser. We were just talking about him as well, so a bit of a disappointment, I'm sure, for him. He shuffled all the way to the tail end of our 33-car field, and the struggles continue. Down the hill they plunge. This is the tricky turn number 10, where it's so easy to lock up your right front tire, and preserving the right front tire is going to be crucial here, Justin, because ultimately tire conservation with the relatively cool track temperatures that we do have at the start of this race, it may not be so important at the start, but it is a long 17-lap fuel window, as look at this, ducking and diving, the top 3 separated by just 1 second.
Yeah, it's going to be very critical, especially as we've seen how big the fall can be at some of these road courses. Silverstone comes to mind, for example, with the high tire degradation there. So this clean air that Otis, for example, has is going to help him with that.
We got another car shuffled off the track. Oh, that's a long way off for the Candyman, Dustin Wardlow. Great to see him back in Lionheart competition, but turn 2 understeer. Do wonder if there was potential car contact that led to him being shuffled off the track. Let's turn our attention to our RaceSpotTV replay machine, because it misses nothing. This is Luis Gonzalez Nunez. That is a bizarre way to go off the track. Maybe just not paying enough attention here, Justin, as we take a look at the onboard with the number 14 car.
Yeah, just didn't turn into the corner, it almost looked like there. Just went off into the grass. Hooked him right off towards the sand trap. Good car control, though, to be able to get back on the circuit. This is what happened to Fraser. Got hit from behind, and that, you see that bouncing right there, broke the right rear tire. And I think he realized it after a few seconds after that touch bit of contact with the left front wing of an air car from behind.
Believe that would have been Lionel Kalisto, as we jump on board with the Canadian Andrew Kinsella, newest member of the RaceSpotTV team. And there you can indeed see Fraser just a little bit unlucky. And I guess that's why we've seen him have to also reset his way down onto pit road. One more replay that I think we're going to take a look at. Yes, it's... Oh, this is not contact for the Candyman. Or was it? Henry Bennett very close behind. Let's take a look once more here, Justin.
Same exact mistake O'Brien did. The difference is this ended up weight shifting a little bit for the corner entry with a little bit of that bobble. And it's similar to what we've seen from the contact initiated from Fraser. As soon as you bobble that little bit for the corner entry, that car just completely sails away as the curves send Newsom to the grass.
Turn 1 is almost flat, so I'm very interested at this. Oh yeah, on the curb, and just, I think, got the car maybe slightly bottomed out on the bottom of the track. And well, Alexis Newsom, who's not necessarily been the most comfortable at this track, I saw her being a bit slower than I think she would have liked in the practice session, finds herself now in the tail end 32nd position across the line. 4 laps already in the books. Brian Beard and Chris Fowler were having a bit of a scrap side by side just a moment ago, but these 3 cars have started just to break away very slightly as Phil Kraus is being left behind. Here comes the move from Brian Beard, getting on past O'Brien. A very impressive qualifying performance, but long run pace clearly struggling, at least at this point in time, Justin, for the 45 car.
And you see the onboard right now, O'Brien just struggling to get into a solid rhythm and trying some different lines of touch fit compared to Beard in front. Just cannot get into a rhythm, it seems, now with a bit of that aero push that's starting to come in, an aero wash, rather. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for O'Brien to get this rhythm back, because he's been losing up to 3-4 tenths a lap with everyone trying to pass on by.
Here's a look at your KARNOX onboard as well with the 45 car. This is Lukey Heights. It's such a fun corner. It's slightly off camber as you get to the top of the hill here, but down you go into this tricky braking zone, braking just before the 50. Beard in front goes a little bit deep. You can see locking up that right front. Does it open the door? This is where that dirty air that Justin was talking about comes into play. Push to pass active for both of these drivers. Brian Beard has already burned through half of his push to passes at this point in time. As side by side, they will work themselves across the start-finish line. Beard going in and out of existence. Will he make things easy for O'Brien? I don't think he's done so. Just behind them, Barrett Rolfe can get around the outside of Mike Rasmussen. Rasmussen has done a good job to try and regain some positions. Barrett Rolfe gets shoved off the racetrack. He's pointing in the wrong direction.
And when you say shoved off, I think that might be a bit of the proper term. Near contact between Rasmussen and Rolfe. Ended up shuffling him way off the circuit, and there goes all the forward progress. It's Silverstone over again for Barrett Rolfe, as we see some more trouble as well that ended up happening for Lionel Callisto. We mentioned a bit of the contact earlier. His car ends up looking physically fine, but the curbing, it's been snapping like snapping turtles today.
It's a bit of deja vu for me, Justin. I did mention those issues we saw during the IndyCar Open race. That turn in particular, that curb, did claim a number of victims. We'll take one more look at the replay and try and get a better aerial look at what happened here. We'll go super slow-mo. You can see Rasmussen just trying to leave enough room to Rolfe, but he slides up the track. Rolfe, in fact, does come down just that little bit, and, well, it's unfortunate for the former GT Academy competitor, who now has a lot of work to do starting his recovery, I should say, back in the 27th spot. Out front, Kraus has caught the tail end of his teammate. I don't think he's going to be too aggressive though here, Justin, because of course Connor Harrington embroiled in the title fight with that car just in front.
I think that's where the big picture is absolutely going to come into play. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Kraus and Harrington try and stay in sync with each other strategy-wise and try and work with one another to try and break away in the future from Otis and Blocker, because the more you push on forward, the windows are June for today's race, the more it opens up the potential for underfueling for the final stop, and that's got to be the big picture part of all this is, can you set yourself up to be able to be having the raw pace at the end of this race? That's going to be the big question mark.
These cars have broken away about 3 seconds from the grouping fifth on back that we're watching now down the hill. Wonderful camera shot as they just get into that braking zone. Henry Bennett at the tail end of that field in 9th position as Michael O'Brien gets back onto the button. You can see Brian Beard, is down to just 3 push to passes left to go, and we have a long way to go. It is not just push to pass, it is push to defend as well, but O'Brien pops himself out of the draft side by side in towards turn number 1. Give that position to O'Brien. He'll have the position done by the Southern Loop.
And as you can tell, just about a majority of the field is not even close to burning up the push to passes like Beard has. I'm surprised Brian has done it so aggressively. They've lost touch with the leaders by already 4 seconds. He's really put himself in a box for, I think, the final parts of the race. If he is thinking, okay, let's burn them up now and try and know this could be one of our more aggressive points, I could see it, but it's not the biggest play, and now everyone else is ready to take advantage of this possibly.
On board with Chris Fowler, the NHR Esports machine, tucked up right behind a driver that I'm sure he's keeping a close eye on when it comes to those team standings. Aaron Morgan in the 48 for Graphics LPM. Down the hill once more. You can see they're all locking up the inside in towards that turn 10. It is a very tricky place to get the car slowed down and slowed down in the least amount of distance possible. Through the final corner they work. It is such a long sweeper that I'm sure the dirty air is proving to be very difficult, but Brian Beard is going to have to be ultra defensive. These cars have started to break away. 1.7 seconds from Robert Malechka in that 10th spot for the factory back outfit. Still waiting to see if we'll see a bit more movers up front, because it's been almost single file at the front. Joshua Chin, by the way, has been on a mission. He's now just gotten past Brian Carey, who's another car to have fallen victim to turn number 1. There you can see the Canadian finally rejoining. This is crucial in the team standings because, of course, Jason Brophy will get on through. But what a start for Joshua Chin here. 14 positions gained. He sits in 16th spot.
It's not Sage Karam in the Retro Series when it comes to this circuit, but it's still very impressive for Joshua Chin, and that's what he needs to do, is be able to get proper damage control, to be able to gain points for his team in particular, for the team standings. He's done a fairly impressive job when it comes to that mark. At the pace he's running, keep in mind, he's quicker than just about everybody all the way up into the top 5. So he's got the pace to get there. It's just, can he keep it clean? This is going to be a full race process to be able to gain 10 seconds on drivers like O'Brien and company way up the pack.
Malechka has been passed by Mike Razmas. Stefan Larkamp looks to demote him one more spot. Larkamp gets the position done. Malechka not responding on the button this time around. In a very good race for Malechka so far, just getting himself into the dirt on the outside of the track. A couple of replays I think we are going to take a look at right now. The first of these involves a car that's already had some issues. Adam Frazier getting it wrong down the hill through turn 10. We may see that a couple more times tonight. Let's jump on board with the number 17 machine and just see here on the curb on the left-hand side and instantly get spun around. One more replay. Let's take a look at, wow indeed. Jay Braun, is this going to be a self-inflicted mistake? Just runs himself off the track with the pressure from the King of Chins as Chin makes his charge up through the field. And let's go ahead and take a look at what happened to Brian Carey here. Was this contact? Oh, it was the slightest bit. Once more reminiscent of what we saw with Barrett Rolfe and the car that he was scrapping with, but it's Brian Carey, the big loser in this situation.
It seems, based on what we've seen today, if you're on the left side of a car heading in through turn 1, through Doohan Corner, you're likely going to see a massive problem. And that has been the case, it seems, in several cases. That may force drivers to be a little bit more safer. Here's Paul Jenkins, meanwhile, who, once again, trying to utilize the outside line with cars underneath. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Something about Phillip Island, we spend so much time just watching the replays. Jenkins is now in 32nd position, so he's now dropped to the tail end of the field. Lots of work for him to do. Let's check in with the cars out front. No passes just yet between Ryan Otis and Adam Blocker. I don't think Blocker's even been close enough to really attempt anything at this point in time, Justin. Would not be surprised, though, to think Adam Blocker, a very impressive fuel saver, is just biding his time and maybe going to make something happen in the pit stop window as his teammate for Adrenaline Motorsports is side by side with Matt Taylor as they run themselves up towards Lukey Heights. Joshua Chin, you said the popcorn seat a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to steal that. Chin has a great view of the action down the hill into turn 10. I think Kinsella just about has this one covered. Give Kinsella that 14th spot.
And Chin's in a good spot to at least pounce on one of these cars down the Gardner Straight in towards turn 1. It's just how daring is he going to be? Well, he's going to be fairly daring with some good speed coming off the corner with the slipstream. Picks him off Kinsella as well. This is exactly what Chin was looking for, to be able to pop on by. Just has to be careful on the squeeze here.
Oh, he does squeeze the NHR Esports car, but Taylor gives him just enough room and give Chin another position, 15 spots from where he started. Being an incredible run, and would not count out a potential top 5 finish if he can continue this pace and just close on the group that is being just led by Michael O'Brien in that 5th spot. It is now, though, Chin versus Kinsella, a battle I'm very sure is going to be rather intense, but just like we were talking about with Adam Blocker, maybe Andrew Kinsella will play the long game. Kinsella, one of the newest members at RaceSpotTV. He's also the setup builder for the Lionheart Racing Series, so a very, very busy schedule for him. And, of course, plenty more Lionheart action to come in the second half of 2021. Lap 12 about to be done for these cars, so they are entering in towards the pit stop window, Justin. 46 laps today's race. That fuel window anywhere from 15 to 17 laps.
And to loop back towards Adam Blocker as a result of that, we've seen the results at Silverstone before. Well, the fireworks show went off and then some in the final corners. That Blocker is thinking long run, so are many of these drivers, where all they want to do is make sure they can pounce with about 10 to 12 laps to go, because we were discussing before today, that's where we expect for some drivers the blacks to come into play because of the hotter track temperatures, and that pace difference could be critical. The grip levels are going to be fairly more comfortable in the blacks, so that's going to be a major talking point, especially for the second pit stop. For this first window, it's going to be the interesting marker, Juna, to see if anyone tries to do something a little bit different. Try mix things up and see if they can play things out, then maybe try the reds later on. Not sure how many we'll see try it, but it is a thought. You can come into play as we see the track conditions already 27 degrees Celsius. It has gone up Fahrenheit-wise already 3 degrees from the drop of the green flag.
Also interesting is that gusts of wind, 14 kilometers an hour. That is rather strong and will blow you around the track. It very much does depend which direction it's going. Side by side, Morgan long way around as he battles Michael O'Brien for that 5th position. O'Brien just a nose in front, but Morgan will stick it down the inside around the sweeping southern loop. He will get in front of O'Brien. That's a pass made on confidence. Morgan now, let's see what he can do. 5.2 seconds behind those race leaders.
And it shouldn't be surprised to see Aaron Morgan make a move like that. We were talking about his pace before. He is a fairly proficient road course racer, especially when it comes to some of the Retro Series races. He knows how to hit his marks and be able to break away from fellow competitors. And now it's the question mark of can he do that? He picked up 2/10 last time by the rest of the group. He's already picked up 5 car lengths since making the pass. He seems to be fairly quick right before this pit window.
Very nice drive for him out of a Siberia corner, and that's really allowed him to stretch his legs, but I don't know if he's really going to be allowed to get away that easily, because here's that run, that draft all the way out of turn 11 through the flat-out turn 12, and then across the start-finish line and diving your way into turn number 1. Out front, it is becoming very, very interesting as Henry Bennett elects to pit very early on. The undercut may be what he's thinking about, but we'll have to wait and see exactly where the 07 machine comes out in terms of lap traffic. You can see the 14 car is about to come through onto pit road, just about, coming through, I should say, through that pit exit as Barrett Rolfe also elects to come down. Bennett might just get himself some clean air here, Justin.
Yeah, he's coming out, in fact, not even close to anybody on track, as drivers were told they had to take this second pit access road.
Sorry, that is another Adrenaline Motorsports driver having some issues, this time through the southern loop. Sorry to cut you off, Justin, but we'll go ahead and take a look at what happens here. Runs himself very deep onto the corner. He's, of course, on the black mark tires, gets into the grass, and some good car control there to hold on to it. The Indiana native stays on track.
Now, lost a bit of time as a result. One of the only a few who did indeed remember started on the blacks. Just about everybody had ran on the reds, as we talked about, inside the top 20, but Ryan Otis, with that little bit extra fuel burned up front, has to come on in a lap before or so Blocker, Harrington, and Kraus.
Must be noted as well, it's a full pace lap here at Phillip Island, so if you're not careful, you very much can burn a little bit more fuel, and doesn't necessarily mean too much. It does mean, though, that, like we said, you'll come in that little bit early. Pit road, a very busy place. What's happened, though, to Barrett Rolfe? A second trip through the gravel, and this time it's a dangling rear wing as well. I suspect this is coming out of turn 6 at Siberia, or is this out of turn 2? No, it's turn 6 at Siberia. Let's go and take a look at what happened to the Ascari Autosport driver, if we can.
And keep in mind, we were talking about the potential mixing up strategy. Just went on the blacks, ended up just sliding off the racetrack, going through the braking zone, and now his race is not going great. If anything, Rolfe may be close to having to pull off here with that significant damage.
He's just trying to do what he can to at least stay out of trouble, as here comes the new race leader onto pit road, Adam Blocker. Do the private label Team Hype cars follow him down? Yes, they do. Connor Harrington right behind with Phil Kraus in close pursuit. Oh, Chris Fowler! Chris Fowler has made a mistake onto pit entry. It is so easy to do. He has got tire damage, nose damage I should say, and almost runs into the path of Barrett Rolfe.
And he just about sawed off the right front tire too, trying to come back onto the racetrack. My goodness, that is not what you want to see when you're coming to the pit lane, and that held up a few drivers coming down the access road. But Ryan Otis may get himself a decent spot here, still coming off this pit exit. In fact, how about near side-by-side?
Almost contact. I think something's happened to the King of Chins. All sorts of chaos in this first pit stop window. It stays the status quo out front. Andrew Kinsella extends the stint one more lap, but Otis, Blocker, Harrington, and Kraus, the 4-car breakaway, they still run as they are. Mike Rigney, now the latest victim of some sort of shenanigans in the double zero. This is out of turn 2. Another car that is yet to come down onto pit road. Brace yourself, Justin. I think we've got a number of replays to go and take a look at right now. And I tell you what, as I work my way through all sorts of shenanigans that is happening on my timing screen, let's start with what happened to Chris Fowler here. Down the road into pit lane, you can see he locks up and then straight lines it straight into the wall.
And he's definitely trying to gain a little bit of extra ground right here before the commitment cone. 4-tire lockup, in fact, and I don't think he realized for a second, oh, hey, this is not just a guardrail here, that's an actual podium set up, an elevation change that he drove into. And just when he got going, you may have noticed, he nearly knocked the right front tire off, not just once, but twice.
Very, very lucky. Let's check out what happens to the King of Chins running in a train. Oh, he just lights up the rear tires. I think there's something subsequent that happens, though, as he gets back onto the track. Yeah, he doesn't get it saved fully and loses a whole heap of time at this point in time. Robert Malechka at the same time has a almost sympathy issue here. Let's take a look at what happens to him. Just runs himself a little bit wide. Not necessarily what you want to do, and then spins through that final quarter. Phillip Island, what is it that happens in the water here that really just sends things for a twist? Malechka very slow in recovering. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens to Mike Rigney. Henry Bennett right behind. No contact there. Rigney just runs himself wide and into the gravel trap.
Just had pressure from behind, seen the car, just ended up just driving that touch bit off his line and just overcooked it indeed. But it seems like with this too, just about a majority of these incidents now are drivers who just got out on the blacks on cold tires, and it seems like all of them are just struggling on the different compounded tires compared to the reds that a majority of the front runners elected to stay on.
Good call, Justin. Let's pull up your tire compounds left-hand side of the screen. You can see Connor Harrington, Phil Krause. They've gone to the black tires early in the race. They will have this long middle stint now to try and just minimize the time loss, minimize the disadvantage that they'll have heading into that final stint, but they will be able to attack. Towers lit up like a Christmas tree, which we always like to see at RaceSpotTV, as Tyler Graf gets on past Stefan Larkamp with that additional 60-70 horsepower that pushes you down the straight. It also does burn a little bit more fuel, so you do need sometimes just be a little bit mindful when you're also doing some fuel saving. But you can see in the top 16, only 3 drivers have gone to the black. There are a couple more drivers, like you mentioned, Justin, that have gone to that primary tire. It's a little bit harder. It will wear that little bit less, but it will also give you just a little bit less grip.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how this all fares out as all the differences on these strategies later on, in particular with Harrington and Krause, because it's looking like, in particular, with the intervals, it's going to be a lot of time loss, obviously. They've lost 2-3 seconds throughout this stint so far. But they're banking on they can be that extra bit quicker at the end of the race. And some of these air battles are going to be intensifying as a result in some of these groupings as we see the fight for ninth about to heat up.
Ooh, Tyler Graf almost checks off the nose of Stefan Larkamp. Side by side, turn 1. It gives you the inside if you're on the outside for this southern loop. And Tyler Graf says, not right now, and sends it deep into the corner. Hangs on to the top 10 spot, but these cars, about 3.5 seconds adrift of Mike Razmas just down the road in that 68 machine. Tyler Graf +4 on the day and covers him off into the braking zone of Honda. A little bit closer than I would have maybe liked if I was that car behind, but still in a very comfortable spot. Let's talk a little bit about our sim experience driver profile then, Justin. Hopefully things have calmed down, at least for now. 19 starts for Mike Razmas, 8 top 10s, 4 top 5s. His best finish coming at Kansas last year on the ovals, but we've seen him become a extraordinarily consistent and well-rounded driver in the Lotus 79. Those skills very much transferring over to the Dallara IR18.
Yeah, he's been very consistently inside the top 10 in a lot of the road courses this season, and we've seen him in a couple cases put himself in position to potentially even get inside the top 5 on some of the road courses this season. Mid-Ohio comes to mind, for example, before attrition came into play. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rasmus increased that best finish sooner rather than later. I'm actually surprised that 4th is the best he's done. Yeah,
I am too, to be honest. Still surprised that maybe that elusive podium is just out of reach, but Again, this is a very, very competitive IndyCar field that we have, only being bolstered by the likes of Phil Kraus jumping into the mix. For your race lead, by the way, these two cars have scrambled away. It is now 3.5 seconds, the gap between Blocker and Harrington for second and third position. But Blocker here, interestingly, Justin, has really not been able to affect anything right now. I'm not sure if he's hanging back and biding his time, but really I'm a bit surprised that Ryan Otis is not being made to sweat as much as I thought he would. He's definitely having to work, knowing that the three-time king is right behind him, and you can see ducking and diving there, but definitely not the sort of intensity we've seen further back on the grid.
I think, again, Blocker is just trying to save his stuff, save the push to passes for the right time for a big-time fight towards the end of this race, because they're going to be on the blacks. Likely, fuel strategy will come into play as well, and how much fuel is put in the cars that may differentiate them a little bit. So Blocker, I think, is just trying to make sure he can go as long as he can to be able to shorten that final stint in the time of the blacks. For Otis, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. If anything, you have to wonder what the strategist in him is thinking about when it comes to this fight more than anything, because you can see Blocker, if he wants to, can close right on up, already within 2-3 tenths of a second in this sector alone. But Otis is in that comfortable position to be able to pull away as a fellow red and white car drives through the grass.
It's Robert Malechka as well. Great qualifying for him on the road courses, but not necessarily enjoying the best of race runs. This is once more through the southern loop, and you could see just getting a little bit wiggly through the mid part of the corner. That weight transfer, not necessarily what the 91 car was expecting. Take a look at the hands right there. Very quick response and almost a second snap there, and does a good job to control himself. We have seen some good car control through the gravel and the grass, but ultimately not what Malechka would have wanted. Now finds himself down in the 24th position. You are right, Justin. Blocker is almost a lion playing with his prey right now. Look at how he closes, and to the inside, he takes a look, almost throws it down the inside at turn number 4, but not close enough. Ryan Otis just hangs on.
You have to wonder if he's starting to look at the time differentials of the drivers on the blacks and realizing, oh, hey, there's a good chance that we're going to actually start losing some time here, because Harrington and Kraus, I've noticed on their time splits, have started evening out to Ryan Otis's times within a tenth or two. So that fall off is starting to hit the reds in big, and Blocker, I think, is now realizing he needs to start trying to break away if he wants to be able to get a cushion over the private label team hype cars.
These drivers are, at least on our pace calculators at this point in time, 1 second slower than the average of the last 5 laps. So very much like Justin was saying, the lap times have dropped off. Fastest lap for Ryan Otis was a 13.176. This time around is a 14.540. 1.5 seconds of pace drop-off, and the lap times back to Connor Harrington here, JP. 4 tenths almost gained by those cars just behind.
Like I said, he's definitely picked up on this now, looking at the times and seeing the gaps, because those cars continue to work together perfectly. So I think that's now added the pressure to him. Meanwhile, you can see some of these are battles near contact. That's a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, a little bit sketchy. Tyler Graf almost washing up into the path of the car in front. Just in front of them, Henry Bennett had just gotten past Brian Beard, but Beard is fighting back outside line through Honda, and he gets the position done. It's not over, though. Siberia's cambered in. You can carry a little bit more speed. Henry Bennett had a shout, but not a big enough one. Still, though, out of turn 10, we are almost halfway through the fuel window right now, and Adam Blocker is looking increasingly hungry to get that race lead.
And this is going to be busy, I think, for the next few laps here, all the way up until the pit stops at this range. They are starting to bleed more and more time to Harrington and Kraus, and if they aren't too careful, there's a chance they reel back in by the time Harrington and Kraus attempt to be on the reds towards the end of the race. Here's Blocker again with the peak.
This time, can he get it done through the southern loop? He is forcing Otis to defend for all his might, but the run out of the corner, Adam Blocker has the run. It will be inside line for Ryan Otis, but do not count out what the outside can do under braking. Blocker has been supremely confident this time. Not close enough. Those cars behind Justin, they are getting closer and closer as this battle rages on.
They picked up 4/10 just from the side-by-side through the southern loop alone, so the more they fight towards you, the more that's going to give more time lead towards Harrington and Kraus. So Blocker needs this to be perfect if he wants to time up the pass. With the different compounds that will be coming into play for that final pit stop window, this is going to be tight, to say the very least. And Harrington and Kraus are probably licking their chops the more they see the squabbling.
Side by side they have been. Blocker gets on the button. He has been exceptionally cautious in how he uses it. Ryan Otis responds. 7 usages left for Otis. 8 left for Blocker as they duck and dive once more. This is not what you necessarily want to do in the race lead. You just increase your distance, and Blocker is close enough once more to sling it down the inside. He thinks better of it though. Now the gap back. 3.5 seconds between your race leader and Connor Harrington.
They actually picked up a little bit of time towards that corner this time since they weren't side by side. But I think right now the chances for Blocker are starting to wear thin, because he's starting to get a little bit further out from some of the dives, but it's getting to where they're reaching lap traffic. Tony Shalwin, a very familiar name when it comes to these types of fights, may be the next factor in this race, Al. Now in this one, he's 30th right in front of these leaders.
Don't think Tony Shalwin wants to see this battle for the lead getting closer and closer in his rear view mirrors. It is 11 laps in the books for Ryan Otis, 10 for Adam Blocker. Would not be surprised if we see Otis potentially come in a little bit earlier and just try and get on to the black mark tires. Sorry, Justin just sent a rather amusing note to me privately. 2.6 seconds though, the gap between Blocker and Harrington. The black mark strategy might have worked a treat for Harrington as he looks to enter HyperX victory lane for the 3rd time this season. 2nd consecutive race for him. As Tyler Graf, what's happened to the 26 car? Oh, once more it's turn 11 that has caught another victim napping. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened to him. All by himself, and loses it before he even gets to the curb on the inside. And once again, a car on the red mark tire, I think potentially coming to the end of the tire life. Watch this, Justin, and watch the hands as well. Tries to do what he can, but a bit too far gone.
Good reaction time, though, as he tried to roll through that section and noticed they're in first gear. Hence why how quickly it revved on up there on him as he tried to go to the corner, and how much that lit up the back tires. So you definitely need to be careful at that point during the section as some more fighting happens a little bit up the road from our leaders.
Henry Bennett side by side with Razmas, and this time Bennett holds on. Joshua Chin has gotten past Tyler Graf. 16 positions gained on the day for the driver who had an end-of-line penalty. Top 5 may be out of the question, but still a potential top 10 as well. Guess what happened to the potential lap traffic that was Tony Shalwin? Well, he's unfortunately run off the road and is not going to be a factor when it comes to your race leaders. It's only a couple of laps away though from seeing those cars at the front making pit stops, and Phil Kraus has had enough. Phil Kraus takes 3rd position away from Connor Harrington.
You almost have to wonder if Kraus and Harrington might have thought, okay, Kraus is a little bit quicker. I feel like I might be holding up. Let's use Kraus to pull me forward, since Philip Kraus has been able to save. They've actually picked up time since then, as meanwhile, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, in what has been a nightmarish Lionheart campaign, another bit of heartbreak.
Bizarre as well. We saw him not necessarily getting the line right on lap number 1. This time just on the curb on the inside. That spits him into the outside wall. Significant damage to his Dallara IR18. Looks like we have our 4th retirement on the day. It's the 14 car of Luis Gonzalez Nunez. The other retirements so far: Barrett Rolfe, Ron Hacker, and Adam Fraser. Phillip Island, by no means an easy track to try and work himself around, as I think you're right here, Justin. Phil Kraus has been released to try and close the gap to the cars out front. He is a very, very impressive tire saver, I should say. The Appleton, Wisconsin native, now on the push to pass, trying to close that gap. 2.7 seconds to Blocker in front.
I know many of the drivers at Lionheart respect him. There was a conversation a little while back in the Lionheart Discord where reaction was, okay, who's Phil? Because it was one of the earlier times with the series, and basically everybody latched on saying Phil is Phil. Long story short, everybody loves Phil. in Lionheart competition was, what I'm trying to say personality-wise, a very unique personality in the garage. And he's doing a great job at closing this gap. He's closed it up 3/10 this lap.
And getting quicker and quicker, if anything, at this point in the run. Those black mark tires really do hold the life very, very impressively. Oh, love that shot down the hill. Once more we get it. You can see on the left-hand side, the only three cars, I should say, in the top 16 on that black mark alternate tires are the private label Team Hype machines. They clearly had a plan in mind coming into this race. I do wonder how it's going to work out for them, though, Justin, because now they'll head into the final stint of the race, needing to get back probably onto the red mark tires. It is slowly getting warmer and warmer. You can see track temperature now up to 29 degrees.
You know what I'm thinking again is their play is they hope to be able to push their way to Otis and Blocker, close up that deficit they had at the start of the run, get in front, and then play defense the rest of the way. Because if they can do that, there's a good shot that they can do so fairly competitively. The tough part's going to be Otis and Blocker are not going to easily give that to them. So, in our words, for Kraus and Harrington to execute this, they need to be near picture perfect on timing up the passes with one another. And if they're side by side for too long, they might burn up their tires to the point where the strategy goes awash.
And again, the delta, that's the word I was thinking of. The delta in terms of lap times, almost 1.5 seconds between new red primary tires, or alternate tires, as here goes Otis. Blocker knows this is when he must respond. He gets onto the push to pass, and now, a couple of laps, he will try the overcut. Can Ryan Otis nail this pit stop entry?
And this is my concern. If you're Otis, he's going to have a fairly heavy car, and if anything, based on the numbers he's hit today, Arjuna, he might have to save a touch bit to make sure he makes it to 15 laps on this stint yet again. So now it gets very intriguing. Absolutely. Blocker, I think, will try and go as long as he can a little bit here with how much he's been able to save in the tire tracks.
Where does Otis come out? Does he feed into lap traffic? That would be terrible. He's going to come out side by side with Jason Brophy. That is not what I think your race leader would have wanted. What's happened to Michael O'Brien, by the way? Stationary, 20 seconds and counting. Don't tell me, Justin, it's a speeding penalty for the driver that started up in third position.
Sounds like the engine is off, and at the commitment cones, he was at 62 miles per hour in a 45 zone. So, very strong chance that the answer is yes for O'Brien.
If you're a Blocker, do not come down as Kraus continues to close the gap. It is 1.6 between Blocker and Kraus. Oh, the Appleton, Wisconsin native is feeling the race right now at his very own island, tentatively known as Gill Island. That's more lap traffic coming out just in front of Adam Blocker. Not necessarily what he would have wanted to see, because now we'll just have a little bit of issues to deal with down out of the southern loop in towards the turn 4 at Honda. That's Alexis Newsom just in front of him. Newsom should stay out of the way. Is she going to make it easy? No, she does not make it easy. Almost locks up into the path of your defending series champion. The gap out front, now less than 1 full second.
Worst possible place to reach the traffic. Kraus timed it up near perfectly as a result of that checkup. And now he's within drafting distance. Exactly what Kraus and Harrington both needed for their pit window in the next couple laps.
Ryan Otis has gotten past Jason Brophy, now has a little bit of clean air, but we will wait and see. Does Blocker come in this time around? He's 16 laps into his run. Phil Kraus right behind, putting the pressure on. Blocker blinks, Kraus follows him in. Harrington elects, I think, to stay out there. He does indeed. Or no, he is not. He has been caught behind Alexis Newsom. That is very frustrating for the private label Team Hype driver.
Newsom took it very conservatively on the access road too, so that checked up Harrington a touch bit, it looked like there, but now it gets intriguing with the different tire compounds. It looks like everyone nice and smooth into the boxes.
Off the jacks, Firestone rubber replaced. It is the black primaries. for Adam Blocker. It is the red alternate for Phil Krause, for Connor Harrington. Here comes your former race leader. Where does Ryan Otis end himself? He is going to be behind, at the very least, Adam Blocker. Will he get in front of Connor Harrington? Yes, he will. Ryan Otis is still in a podium position, but he is behind Blocker. He is behind Krause. On debut, Phillip Krause with an amazing opportunity to take victory here from the land down under.
And now this is where the strategy cards definitely come into play. Reds versus blacks. Krause needs to make this pass within the next 3 to 5 laps for the strategy to work. Then get into full defense mode for Harrington. Just that little bit of lost time, I think, may be taking him out of the factor to be able to push on the Reds. But you never know. This is going to be very busy, I think, coming up here with Blocker not going to make things easy.
Blocker has 7 push to passes left, or in this case it will be ultimate push to defend. Phil Krause with 4 usages of the button left to go in this race. For Blocker, it is going to be crucial to ration out his usages and to ensure in the closing stages he has something to play for. Blocker on the button. He is feeling the pressure. Andrew Kinsella has extended this stint once more out front. He is in the race lead, but 2.6 seconds behind is his teammate Blocker, with Krause Otis in close pursuit. As a result of Newson diving down onto pit road at the same time as the trio of the leading cars, Justin, Connor Harrington almost 2 seconds behind Ryan Otis in that battle for net third.
And if anything, it's getting worse for Harrington. He came out as well behind Paul Jenkins in lap traffic. Look at Otis, though. He wants to try and utilize the different tire compound to the inside.
That's bold. That's what I'll say. That is bold. But I think Otis it knows that his strategy just did not work out the way that he would have wanted, and he knows that now is the time that Krause is going to be just that little bit more cautious. Krause, of course, does not want to come into the series and affect the title fight in terms of knocking Adam Blocker off the road. He will be very, very happy to knock Adam Blocker, though, out of HyperX victory lane and down the steps of the podium. Andrew Kinsella on his way now down onto pit road. He makes it 17 laps on the stint. Both times around, a very impressive strategy from Blocker, as here comes the run from Krause on the button and down the inside, side by side, in towards Doohan. Phil Krause to the race lead. How does Adam Blocker respond, though, with 12 laps still to go?
There's step 1 of the strategy. Get out in front, get the clean air with the Reds. Ryan Otis is off the track, though!
Oh no, Otis has lost it, and from pole position, Ryan Otis is out of a podium position.
What a mistake to make at this point of the race. You have one of your best runs all season in line, and you throw it away with a major mistake, carrying too much speed through the southern loop. Unbelievable. All the way back to 5th position. Still going to be a solid finish, but as you see, a little bit higher up in the line, just can't get it to cut on down, and bye-bye in 2nd gear.
And Aaron Morgan has gotten past for 4th as well. My suspicion would have to be dirty air. For the first time, Otis has really had to deal with it, and that's what's indeed, yeah, you can see on entry, just runs a little bit deep and then trying to get the car turned in. It snaps on him, and Otis does a good job to avoid getting spat into the tire barriers, but at the end of the day, that is not what he would have wanted to see. Andrew Kinsella, by the way, has rolled himself, I should say, out of pit road and is fighting with Matt Taylor. This is just outside of the top 10. Long way around for Kinsella, but what a move to hold that position as here comes the fastest laps from Phil Krause. This is when he needs to set the afterburners to full maximum attack. It's a 1:12.926, the only driver breaking below the 1:13s.
And he needs to get this buffer as quick as possible, because it's going to be where I think he is going to have to force Blocker to use a couple push to passes for things to even out his direction. And this could be one of the most intriguing fights all season to see how this plays out, because for Krause, it's going to be very, very defense heavy, where we might see some very bold blocks down the front straightaway in particular. He needs to drive like that, as this gets interesting coming at 10 to go.
We've been waiting to step aside here on RaceSpotTV, but do not go anywhere. This race is not done. 10 laps still to go in the KARNOX Grand Prix of Phillip Island, presented by SimSnap Photography. Phil Krause leads here from the land down under. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and coverage of the KARNOX Grand Prix of Phillip Island. It has been an intense race, to say the very least. We are into the closing stages, and on his debut, Phil Kraus has made his way up the field to lead here from the land down under. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined, as always, in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth by the wonderful Justin Prince. You can follow along with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at ATVO by heading to RaceSpot.tv/Indy. Justin, it's been a race where many a driver has been caught out by the tricky nature of this roller coaster. So many ups and downs, such a tricky track for the Indy cars to head around. But Phil Kraus has mastered the track. He has mastered the tire strategy as well. He's almost 2 seconds clear of the three-time champ.
It's played out near perfectly for this strategy call. It's a gamble that we talked about could be a possibility, and it's now come to fruition. The main thing is, though, can Kraus hold on when these tires start to fall off on the back end of this run, and can Blocker be able to get close enough to be able to make a move? Those two things are so very much critical for these final 7 laps if Kraus wants to take the checkered flag.
At this point, he's kind of checked out. Out of draft range is Adam Blocker. Blocker does have a couple more push-to-passes left to use, but in what is a shortened final fuel stint, you would have to think that Kraus's tires will just hang on just enough as he makes his way onto the red mark alternate tires. Adam Blocker running around with your butt kicker on board and the black mark primary tires. If anything, I think Blocker is going to be a bit more concerned about what's in his rear view mirrors, and that's 2 seconds away, Connor Harrington. And of course, Blocker's main championship rival, Justin. We mentioned it on a number of occasions so far over the course of the evening. Blocker, with his real-world responsibilities as a trackside engineer with the NTT IndyCar Series, will be missing a number of races as those guys in the real world make their West Coast swing. For Blocker, good points on the board here, continuing a top 5 run that is extended to September of 2020 is crucial in putting one hand on the 4th consecutive championship.
At the very least, he definitely doesn't have to panic about a good result as long as he doesn't make a major mistake, because he's been consistently getting strong points. The matter is, does he get first, second, or third? That's the big question mark on everybody's minds right now for him. So I think if you're Blocker, you definitely still want to win, Arjuna. That's the main thing I'm emphasizing. Just like this battle for 6, you still want to make the pass even though you're in a decent spot, because that's the nature of a racer. You want to get as high as you can because you never know when you need those points.
And speaking of a driver that is making some moves happen, Ryan Otis, the pole position sitter who slid off the track at turn number 2, now makes his way back into the top 4 as he gets on past Aaron Morgan. Oh, there's been a bit of an issue for Michael O'Brien, who had a very, very quick qualifying performance. Let's go ahead and turn our attention to the RaceSpotTV replay machine, which is ever present and ever watching. Ooh, through turn 2, those black mark tires just snap him around. Justin, you've been noticing, though, it's not the black mark tires that we need to watch out for. It's the red mark tires. The gap between Kraus and Blocker down to 0.7 of a second.
Exactly what I was about to refer to there, because Kraus has been snapping the back tires, in particular in Sector 3. The reds have fallen off a cliff and then some. 0.4 a lap is now the difference between Blocker and Kraus. Harrington, in that gap that was starting to close in, has expanded back already to 3.2 seconds back of the leader. And now for Kraus, he needs to defend for all his life if he wants this strategy to work.
I think Blocker is coming on strong here, and I said push to defend. He's only got one more usage of the button. Adam Blocker looks around the outside. He will set up an over-under and the run through the southern loop, down through Stoner Corner and in towards the ever-tricky braking zone at Honda. Blocker is making his intentions known. Oh, Kraus defends the inside. It's a very late cover. Blocker forced the long way around as Kraus locks up the inside front. Those tires are really starting to struggle. Adam Blocker has 5 laps to get this move done.
Coming up to 4 to go already, and another snap coming up through the gears. Kraus is right at the very edge when it comes to these grip levels. Blocker, I think, is just waiting for that one opportunity to build up that run. get himself down the Gardner straight side by side and get it done, because that's his best opportunity around this racetrack.
Well, note, by the way, I did see one of the KARNOX members watching on. You picked a good race to sponsor. This really, I mean, just building off what we saw at the home of British Motorsports in Silverstone, this has been a firecracker. Ducking and diving, Phil Krause uses his final push to pass of the race. He will have 4 laps to defend from Adam Blocker, who looks to the inside, side by side through turn number 1. Blocker forced to go the long way around. Krause covers him off, but the move is surely inevitable here from Phillip Island.
Krause not making it easy, though. Blocker with a perfect run off the corner, though, to take the high line.
Side by side, they work into Honda. Blocker has been confident under the brakes, but almost runs himself into the grass. Krause holds on, and interestingly, the gap to Connor Harrington is coming down bit by bit. Blocker has the bit between his teeth. It's almost 12 kilometers to go here from the land down under.
Starting to see flashbacks to Silverstone with the aggressiveness now coming into play. Only the different compounds are now really coming into that strategy element. This could get very intriguing once they go off towards turn 1 this lap, because now with no push to passes left for Krause, he's going to need to rely on driver skill if he wants a shot here.
Blocker on the button. Can he get it done this time around? If he gets the move done, he will surely be able to break away and pull free. He is side by side at the stripe and in towards turn 1. Adam Blocker back to the lead of the race. Krause has to concede, but with 3 laps to go, is it over yet?
Krause is not giving it up easily, though, trying to go for the switchback. Just doesn't have the grip, though, as he needs on corner exit. There's that arrow wash.
Almost into the grass. Adam Blocker now 6 car lengths clear as we enter in towards turn number 4. What a fight. And you know what? We thought Krause had played the strategy masterclass, but Adam Blocker, there is a reason why Blocker is a 3-time champion. And guess what, Justin? We have seen it here today.
And this was the gamble with the strategy where you needed to defend for so long, and for Krause, he just doesn't have the push to passes to be able to even try and fight back at this point. If he had a couple more, Arjuna, I think it's more realistic, because you can defend like that for maybe 4 or 5 laps.
Oh, Justin.
With only the couple, it's not going to work.
Justin, the private label team hype car of Jason Brophy has gone off the track in a very important battle for the team's championship. Andrew Kinsella has also had some sort of an issue here in the closing stages. Let's start by what happened to Jason Brophy. This is turn 2, locks the inside front up and loses about 10 seconds as he goes dirt tracking. Not what you want to do in these Dallara IR18s. You'll note that was the Canadian Brian Carey who slipped on through. That is what is crucial when it comes to those team points. Oh, Andrew Kinsella just goes a little bit deep in towards Honda, catches himself out, and Matt Taylor, Tyler Graf, they get on through. That's 2 positions that I don't think Kinsella would have wanted to lose here. It has been a very close fight for the team's championship, Justin, and while Phil Krause represents the private label team hype, he does not do so in the team's championship, having come into the series very late in the season.
Yeah, it's still going to be a decent haul, I will say, in points with the help of Harrington and with Chin, mind you, recovering to a top 10 run in 10th position with a chance to jump as high as 9th. So they'll still come away with a decent run, but for Blocker, he's ready to cap this off coming to the white.
1 lap to go. It is 4.5 kilometers left from Adam Blocker, who gets on the push to pass and extends his lead to 1.4 seconds. White flag in the air from Phillip Island. It's Blocker from Krause, from Harrington, your top 3, with Ryan Otis having recovered on past Aaron Morgan. Once more, our tower gets lit up like a Christmas tree. What can you say about Phillip Island, Justin? Every time we seem to come here, it puts on an absolute wonderful show. I'll tell you what, I hope that George Anzaldo, who's watching on, has a reason to make this a permanent fixture in the Lionheart IndyCar schedule.
Yeah, this is a really exciting track for a reason, and we've seen how things played out today with the strategy differentials, with the pace differentials, and that good battle for the race lead, as well as some of the good battles in the mid-pack. And it also challenges the competitors in their ability to make it through the tight technical sections. But for Blocker, he timed it up right, saved his push to passes for the perfect moment, and when it counted, he was able to maximize those push-to-passes to just drive on by the different strategy rolling of the dices from private label Team Hype today.
It has been an extraordinary run for Blocker. Top 5 dating back to September of 2020. He won at Silverstone, but it was controversial. There's no controversy here. Blocker takes the checkered flag. He wins the KARNOX Grand Prix of Phillip Island, presented by SimSnap Photography. On debut, it's a wonderful performance from Philip Kraus to come across the line in second, but we know Kraus, we know he'll be thinking, what could he have done differently to try and make something happen? Connor Harrington, podium for him after victory last time out. He will try and make things difficult for Blocker, heading in towards the final stages of the season. Disappointment for Mike Rasmussen, who's had an issue on the last lap. That promotes Joshua Chin up into the 9th position, not the way that he would have wanted. It was a photo finish between Brian Beard and Chris Fowler at the line, but ultimately, all eyes focus on the 3-time Lionheart King. 7 victories in 13 races in 2021. We think he'll miss a couple of races in the next couple of weeks, Justin, but you better believe Adam Blocker, one hand on the championship.
One hand, and the other hand is fist bumping right now because it was very quick, the pace, and talked about it from the get-go when he was behind Ryan Otis. He knows how to strategize and knew how to play this race to be able to get an advantage over the rest of his competitors. He did that to a T today. Some of the respect being shown from the competitors as well. Philip Kraus gave a rev of the engine as he drove by as well. As Mike Rasmussen, you see, wow, major correction over into the grass.
Did something else happen to him though? Because that should be something that's fairly recoverable. Let's ride on board with 60.
Is it fuel?
It's fuel. He's out. He's coasting. And I think in his rush to try and downshift on the in the entry into turn number 10, Rasmussen loses control and loses a top 8 run on the day. That is heartbreak for a driver competing for the Lionheart Retro Series champion. But again, all eyes on Blocker. It is time to burn the house down. He wins the Thunder Down Under. He wins the KARNOX Grand Prix of Phillip Island, presented by SimSnap Photography. Let's go ahead then and take a look at our KARNOX race results. It is a 2.5 second advantage for Adam Blocker. It was close between him and Phil Kraus, two drivers who have been very accustomed to battling over the past 24 months, but Blocker comes out on top for the Adrenaline Powerslide team. Very impressive debut for Phil Kraus in that 22 car. Watch out for him over the rest of 2021, a potential title contender heading to 2022. Connor Harrington victorious from the Great American Speedway just a couple of weeks ago. He finishes in 3rd on that alternate tire strategy with Ryan Otis from pole position, a small mistake, 1st on the pit stop strategy and 2nd out on track, dropping him to 4th at the end of the day. Aaron Morgan +4 to get himself into the top 5 with another big mover, +5 for Henry Bennett, 6th for the 07 machine. Brian Beard, Chris Fowler, they were separated by 0.04 of a second at the line. Beard comes out on top, but at the end of the day, the biggest mover is Joshua Chin from the end of the line at the start. 21 positions gained. He finishes in 9th on his return to the IndyCar Series. Matt Taylor in 10th completes our top 10 positions with Tyler Groff, 11th spot, just 1 second behind. Andrew Kinsella, a late race spin, cost him a top 10 finish. He finishes down in 12th with his Powerslide Motorsports teammate and Adrenaline Motorsports teammate right behind him in that very important run for the team's championship. Christopher makes it a trio of Adrenaline cars in 14th, with Jason Brophy rounding out our top 15. I think Brophy will be pretty happy about that. Not necessarily the biggest fan of road course racing, +7 from where he qualified. Robert Malechka was quick in qualifying, several mistakes out on track. He finishes in 16th, with Lionel Callisto 17th, Jay Brandt 18th, Scott Holmes and Joe Branch complete the top 20. Matt Houston, Mike Rigney, the final cars on the lead lap here from Phillip Island, with Mike Rasmussen out of fuel in 23rd spot. Michael O'Brien qualified in 3rd, but didn't feel as comfortable on the race setup. He finishes down in 24th with Paul Jenkins, who I think got in a little bit of trouble when he was lap traffic by, I believe, Connor Harrington, completing our top 25. Then we get to our retirees in today's race. Technical issues for Stefan Larkamp drop him out. 8 laps to go. It's 26 for him. Alexis Newsom very much struggling in terms of car balance. She finishes 27th. Dustin Wardlow, Tony Showen, Luis Gonzalez, Nunez through 30th. Ron Hacker, Barrett Rolfe, and Adam Frazier, the final non-classifiers in today's race. Race controls, George Anzaldo joined as a driver. Did not mean to do so. He did not even take to the start. And fastest lap, it does go to Phil Kraus. A 1:12.926 set on lap number 35 with those fresh red Mark tires. Let's make our way into the HyperX post-race show and down to HyperX Victory Lane, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. And in HyperX Victory Lane for the 7th time in 13 races in 2021, we find the 3-time Lionheart King. Adam, that was a very fun fight with the debutant Phil Kraus. Talk to us about that battle at the end and the strategy call to run the blacks in the middle stint of the race.
I ran the blacks in the last stint.
Oops, sorry,
yeah.
no, you got me wrong. I meant the Kraus and Harrington running the black stints and the black tires in the middle stint. Sorry.
Honestly, I was always planning to do red, black, just because the track was hotter at the end, and I didn't want to give up track position in the middle. I think Phil and Connor kind of had they had to do that where they were at the back of our train, so they could afford to run the blacks in the middle and lose time and then gain it back. And yeah, at first I was really concerned that I didn't realize that they were on blacks, so Phil caught me a lot at the end of that stint, and I was like, am I doing something wrong? Like, am I managing my tires wrong? But then I realized, oh, okay, he was on blacks and he's putting on reds, and yeah, I don't know, for that whole time I was trying to get past Ryan because I felt like I was a little bit faster, but I wasn't fast enough to actually pass him, and I felt like if I had passed him, I could have just went away with the lead. But yeah, in the end, I had just waited to the pit cycle to overcut him, and then yeah, I mean, I knew Phil would be faster at the beginning of the stint, and so I kind of just let him by, and then I just had to hope that his tires fell off and I was able to get him back.
We were treated to a firecracker of a race. I mean, first Silverstone, now this. It's been 2 incredible road course races for the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Talk to us, though, about those first 2 stints and being stuck behind Ryan Otis. I've seen you've already congratulated him on his defense, because he was impenetrable, as you put it. I mean, nowhere for you to go. You tried, you threw the kitchen sink at him, but he really didn't let up, and ultimately it was a strategy that hurt him. He came out into lap traffic, and from there his race was really affected. But such a fun first couple of stints, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think there was a couple times where I really could have had him if I was a little bit more aggressive, like maybe into 2 if I would have drove it in deeper, but it would have been a risk because I would have had to clear him, and I felt like I was better braking into Honda. So if there was one time where I just had surprised him and got the dive bomb on him, I think I could have made it work, but I think I showed my hand a little bit too early with that, just trying to pressure him into a mistake. But yeah, he did a great job, and he really probably deserved a little bit better finish. But yeah, him and Phil put, it was a great race between us and a lot of clean racing. So I really enjoyed it.
Now, it's been 7 victories this season. We'll see you, of course, I think, in action for the Michigan 500-mile race in just about 9 days' time. But we mentioned your West Coast swing and your trackside duties with the NTT IndyCar Series. Do you know which races you're going to be missing, of course, and how do you think that's going to affect the title fight with Connor Harrington, who's been exceptionally consistent, just not as consistent as you?
Yeah, I think I'll have to miss a couple races, but I'm definitely going to make Michigan, and I think I'm not even doing the math on points until we get through Michigan, because it's a double points race at a big oval, so anything can happen, so it's not even worth doing any calculations. So I think after Michigan, I'll kind of look at it and put together, what I think I need to do for the end of the season. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for calling the race, and all the guys on Adrenaline for the hard work on the setup, or it wasn't a setup, but all the work on the strategy and everything. So yeah, see you guys at Michigan.
I think you can still thank your teammates in Adrenaline, of course. Andrew Kinsella building that setup. Congratulations once more, victorious Adam. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for that Michigan double points race.
Yep, see ya.
So that was HyperX Victory Lane. That was Adam Blocker. Let's make our way now down to our debutant, and I'm sure a very disappointed debutant in some regards, because Phil, at times it looked like you had that race in control. Slightly different strategy to the Lionheart King just in front of you, but ultimately it was side by side with 4 laps to go and just a little bit short from taking the victory here.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. I was looking forward to winning my island. Definitely had a good shot there, but I used a bit too many buttons in the middle stint there, trying to pull Connor along to catch back up to those top 2 on the reds.
Talk to us about joining the series now and midway through the season, Phil, because of course I know it's probably tough for you mentally knowing that you don't necessarily want to get involved with the title race by making any contact. And I was a bit surprised, to be completely honest, that you got on past Connor in that middle stint on the blacks, and potentially it looked like just you had a bit more pace and you were trying to drag Connor up to that battle for the race lead there.
Yeah, as I said, middle stint I was trying, since I don't have anything to race for, I was gonna pass Connor, use some buttons, and try to catch up, but he got messed up by a bit of lap traffic on the pit-in lap, so that didn't work out too well because he ended up about 3 seconds back or so. But you know, it happens. It's racing.
Talk to us now about the rest of the season, Phil. Of course, we've got the double points race coming up from Michigan. That's going to be surely pretty important for you because there is still definitely a decent finish in 2021 on the cards if you can accumulate the points at the rate that we've seen. We know you're strong in this IR18. We saw it in that ISOWC season. I'm sure you're looking forward to competing in these 10 rounds that you'll be around for.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm honored to be able to join Lionheart, and big shout out to private label team Hype, Ethica, and all them for giving me this opportunity to, you know, wheel it with these boys.
Congratulations, Phil. Debut went pretty well for you, and high hopes and high expectations, I'm sure, heading to Michigan in 9 days' time.
Yep, 10-4. Thank you.
So that was the private label team Hype driver of Phil Kraus. One more private label team Hype driver to talk to, and it is Connor Harrington, victorious last time from the Great American Speedway, third here today. And Connor, I mean, it was a conservative opening stint, I think, for you, just trying to run around and potentially save some fuel behind Ryan Otis and Adam Blocker. Ultimately, though, you got caught out with some lap traffic on the entry into pit road the final time around. That dropped you just that little bit too far behind to challenge for the race lead.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate to get caught up there. I got caught up on the in-lap, and then on my second lap, which is supposed to be the fastest on the tire, I got blocked again. So I don't know. I can't catch a break with the lap traffic in this series. It seems like, but we'll take a third place. Really good from Phil there to at least try to make it a little interesting for the championship. But yeah, we're gaining points in the team championship. We're sewing up second in the individual points. So I mean, I know it's nice to try to go for first, but I think we're gonna need a little help here in the double points races coming up to have any chance.
Well, a good double points race for you definitely would mix things around, especially if Adam struggles to score points, and with Blocker having to miss a couple of races with the 3-week road trip that he's going to take on the best coast. It will be interesting if you can potentially challenge for first, but like you said, I mean, ultimately it is going to take almost an act of God for Blocker, who's been so consistent this season. We're talking about a top 5 streak that dates back to September of last year, but I know you're pretty confident, I'm sure, about the races that we have coming up.
Yeah, I mean, other than the mistake I made at Gateway, I think I finished in the I would have finished in the top 5 in a lot of races, other than just the ones where I get taken out. So I mean, we're just as consistent as Blocker, and we were close tonight, so I'm not too worried about that. And the oval races are a little bit of a lottery, and we've shown that we can win those races. We've won 2 of them this year, so and we've hung around in almost all of them other than Gateway. So we're looking to be strong, but we're just going to need a little bit of help. That's all.
And in terms now of having someone like Phil Kraus on your team, of course, teammates at Team Talon on the open setups competition side of things, how useful is that in terms of bouncing ideas off when you're building strategies, learning and getting accustomed to tracks and setups? How useful is it going to be to have a 4th member of your team heading into the last 9 races of the season?
Oh yeah, it's always good. I mean, Phil is a fantastic addition to private label team Hype. he's obviously shown in in ISOWC that he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. So it's been really great to have Phil with us this year to just help learn the setups and figure out the fastest way to get around the track. So we're really hopeful that having the fourth car will be a little bit of an advantage for us, maybe in the team championship. Not in terms of points, but just another car out there that will work with us, since I know probably everybody is gunning for us since we are the top dogs. So nobody's going to cut us any breaks. So it's nice to have somebody out there that's working with us.
Congratulations on third then, and we'll see you in 9 days' time for the double points race at Michigan.
Yep, cheers guys, thanks.
So that was our final podium interview, the private label team hype driver of Connor Harrington. And Justin, I mean, these road courses have been absolutely enthralling. Silverstone, if you ask me, one of the best races we've seen in Lionheart history. Phillip Island, very, very close up there. But now we head to a oval swing. First, like I said, on the weekend in 9 days' time, Michigan, a double points race. That's going to be crucial. Motegi and Iowa before we return to the road courses at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
I can't wait to see how things fare out at Michigan first things first, because that race is such a difficult one to win because of not just the distance, Arjuna, but because as well how it is in terms of managing the tires. But this is going to be a very critical time if you're an oval driver, who primarily in particular, Arjuna. This is the time you need to score points. You make any mistakes here, it can very much cost you any shot at a decent spot on the championship. In our words, this could be one of the most pivotal strings of races this campaign, including Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. I think Michigan being double points and the next double points race after that being our finale from Fontana just increases the stakes when we head for 500 miles at Michigan. But really, really cannot wait till we go road course racing again, because such a strong field. I think the strongest we've seen on the road course side of things across 9 seasons of Lionheart competition. So should be something to behold, and really going to be an exciting stretch till December, and we'll round off our championship here once more in California. Before we say goodbye though, we would like to thank the various partners that make all of this possible. For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit as the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? Well, for more information, visit thebuttkicker.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LionHRT15 for 15% off all orders.
The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com.
Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code Minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders.
Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohen's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel on YouTube, and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing channel.
And it's not just them, but so many other names and faces that make this possible. To learn more about the sponsors and partners of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com, where you can learn more about all 3 series the Lionheart sanctioning body puts on. You can also stay involved with the virtual paddock by joining the Lionheart Discord. More information available on the Lionheart Racing Series website. It's going to be a busy next week for the Lionheart Racing Series. First, on Thursday, the Retro Series goes short track racing for the final time in 2021 as they head to the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Then on Saturday, the Lionheart IndyCar Series goes racing for the second Triple Crown event of the season, live from the Michigan International Raceway. You can catch that and so much more across of RaceSpotTV, but to make sure you stay involved with the latest comings and goings of the Lionheart Series, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. ESTV has you covered for your esports action. Keep in touch with them across of social media, while RaceSpot has all your virtual motorsports action. Subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series that we get to cover. We'll be back stateside then next week for plenty more Lionheart competition, but here from Phillip Island, it's Adam Blocker once more in Victory Lane. For the entire team at RaceSpotTV, on behalf of my co-commentator Justin Prince, my name is Arjuna Kenkipati. What a race we had in the Thunder Down Under. We will see you in 7 days' time for more Lionheart action, but for now, so long and goodbye.